Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. What do you suck at? It can be a hard question to answer, but only by dropping your ego and becoming self-aware can you optimise productivity and actually start to grow. Dan Williams is the Asia-Pacific business coach for coaching network EOS Worldwide. He says that by identifying what you suck at and then doing something about it, you can set your business on a path to higher profitability. Dan starts by explaining to Jeff Waters how to spot what you're bad at.
One of my favourite racing sayings is you need to slow down to speed up. And that's literally where it starts. As a business owner, if I think of the persona of a business owner, it starts by slowing down long enough to take stock of everything that you do. I met with a small business owner recently. I'm going through renovation at home and I had trouble getting hold of this guy and he turned up, fantastic gentleman. And I said to him, walk me through the structure of your business, just out of interest. And it was a very basic structure. It was him and then all of the workers. And I said, have you ever written down all the things that you do? And he looked at me and I could see him aging before me. But if you slow down and just think about all the things that you've accumulated over the years that you just don't enjoy doing or that you're bad at, that's a great place to start. It doesn't feel particularly good, but it's a great place to start is you pull that handbrake and just take stock of those things.
So it sounds like you have to drop the ego and adopt a level of self-awareness that you might not be used to.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't want to encourage drinking, but maybe a glass of red or a beer to help you sort of grease the wheels. But then once you get going, you'll actually can think over the time from a business's inception to the current day, you will have accumulated a scary number of tasks that you just do. But if you can slow down long enough to capture them, then you've suddenly got something that you can work with.
I suppose talking to somebody else about it might be a good way to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I've offered with that person I talked about before to actually sit down with them and say, let's do this together. It absolutely can help.
So when someone embarks on business, you say they reach a ceiling due to reaching their peak personal output. What do you mean by that?
So every business probably ever that was started by a person on their own, you play a volume game early days. You think, let's just maximize the output. Let's just see how much juice we can squeeze out of the orange. And you'll get to a point where the first ceiling that you will hit is just how much you can produce on your own. And that's what I call that personal peak output, where a lot of solopreneurs, you sort of come to be called, will happily work 16 hours, plus 20 hours a day. Personally, I like to sleep 8 hours a night, so that doesn't work for me. But they'll do that and they'll eventually hit that ceiling where they realize there's only so much they can do. And that is, I'd say, almost guaranteed in any business where someone starts on their own.
So you mentioned the first ceiling. Are there others?
There are many more, and I'd say the ceilings are inevitable as well. So that's probably the sad part of this equation. Because if you're a solo operator and you're relying on your ability to produce work, the volume that you can produce dictates how much comes back into the business. Your first instinct is to say, well, I just need to do more. So I'll just get someone like me who can do what I can do, and let's just amplify what we can produce. And then the next ceiling that you'll hit is you've surrounded yourself with people who can do what you can do. But they also quite often are bad at the same things that you are bad at. And that sort of then almost leads us into the next ceiling. But you get the picture where I'm headed.
So how do you do something about that?
So quite often, I talked about building a list of things that you do. So that list, let's use that list now. So you've built this list of all the things that you do. You've accumulated over the life of the business all these things that you do, and some of them aren't particularly inspiring tasks. So you start to plot them out. And quite often, the people around you that are bad at the same things that you are bad at Quite often they'll be able to pick up some of those things. There might be delegation opportunities. But what you can do is organise these tasks. I'm talking everything from a daily, weekly, monthly basis, things like doing your bank reconciliation through to dropping things off at the post office, to customer calls, to quotes. Tax, yes. Don't forget tax, please. You'll get a reminder. They will find you.
That's true.
So often a lot of these things you can group them together. And lo and behold, that's a role. The organisation structure is starting to form. And then you start to think, actually, maybe I can hire someone who is good at the things that I'm bad at. And that's a great place to start. And the beauty of the way the world works now is it doesn't always mean hiring somebody. It doesn't mean that you have to put on someone full-time or even part-time. You've got things like Upwork or, everything as a service, a virtual CFO, those sorts of things. And it's completely attainable.
Now, you built a multi-million-dollar IT business. What's your personal experience with what you suck at?
So as I was recounting, my body temperature picked up because I'm remembering all these things that I went through. I would hire anyone who could fog a mirror almost at one stage just to get the volume out the door. And then suddenly you had all these people around you. And my personal experience is that I often waited too long, and I'd spend my nights and my weekends catching up on quotes, invoicing, tax, bring that up again. And I would sacrifice my life, for that. All the things that I was really bad at, I'd push into this corner or sweep them under the rug to the point where the lump in the rug prevented me from entering the room. So
firstly, how did that affect you?
So that meant that effectively the business was controlling me. So I wasn't in control of the business, it was controlling me. And I was neglecting my team, neglecting customers, and you'd miss opportunities. You'd miss deals, you'd be too slow to quote, you'd lose cash flow because you can't invoice someone 9 months after you've done the work, apparently. And so the business would not only hit a ceiling, you'd start to go backwards.
And how does that feel?
It feels horrible, especially as an employer when you look around the room and you think, I'm responsible for the livelihoods of these people. So if that's not a strong enough motivation to get you to do something about it, I don't know what is. But the positive outcome is that I learnt these things and I learnt to do this. A lot of the work that I do today is helping business owners to do just this, to work out what they suck at and then to find someone who actually loves those things and is great at them and discover the freedom that you can do things on weekends and nights that isn't invoicing or billing or quoting. Yeah.
That was Dan Williams, Asia Pacific business coach for coaching network EOS Worldwide. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.